Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Welcome to our 70th Grand Chapter here in Fort Lauderdale. We're delighted that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to be with us this afternoon or this morning, and we also appreciate that your wives were able to join as well. Please, let's give a round of applause for the wives, please.
All the pretty wives.
This is the first time that we've ever had a panel related to the Maddox Lecture, and it's also the first time in Grand Chapter history that we've ever had 4 Hall of Fame inductees on the stage at one time. So thank you for participating in that, and Charlie, thank you for providing that excellent idea here that we've been able to implement this morning. So thank you. You all have provide a great example for us and for all the students here, exemplifying a lifetime of commitment. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the principles that you've demonstrated as you've reached the pinnacle of your careers. You should be commended for that, and thank you for providing Sigma Nu and making Sigma Nu proud of all of you. We're eager to hear how Sigma Nu's principles has shaped your lives and successes, which we'll talk about this morning. Some of you may have known Brother Robert Maddox, the namesake of our honor lecture here this morning. Brother Maddox was a professor for many years at Oklahoma State University, and Maddox envisioned the lecture as a means of emphasizing Sigma Nu's commitment to the honor principle for every Grand Chapter. We appreciate you helping us meet that important message here for this Grand Chapter. So for this morning, I'd like to start with Brother Hargis. Brother Hargis, we understand you were the recruitment chairman for the Epsilon Epsilon Chapter in 1966, and you signed Brother Thoma and Brother Humphreys and future U.S. Senator Tom Coburn, who entered Chapter Eternal in 2020. We have a chair here on the stage in memory of Brother Coburn. Brother Hargis, can you tell us how you spotted this amazing talent during your recruitment process and these future Hall of Fame brothers?
Same way I found my wife.
Good answer.
No, Carl mentioned it in his remarks. It really always does come down to people and the kind of people who really want to help others and be successful themselves. I remember visiting Carl. Carl grew up on a ranch west of Boise City, Oklahoma. Now, that's not the end of the world, but you can see it from there. And I'd heard about him from some people I really respected, and so we drove out and met. First person I met was Carl's mom, who was on horseback. They were working cattle that day. But Carl just had that strong ethic that I look for. You know, I've always wanted, our chapter, Epsilon Epsilon, has had a lot of success, but in the 90s, and thanks to Tom Mason, in the 90s, we were really on our backs. And it was brilliant because we had about 4 bad guys. They had spoiled the barrel for much more than that. But Tommy came in there, and he summarily dismissed, I think, I can't remember, 23, 26.
Half.
And it's just, when you depart from getting quality people and taking chances on people that you've seen don't really deserve your trust, you're going to have problems. And so with Carl, with Don, and with Tom Coburn, those are really quality people. I mean, Tom and I probably disagreed on about as many political things as we didn't. And he always used Oklahoma State as an example of bad acting. And I said, why don't you pick on somebody else? And he said, well, you're the only one I know anything about. But they all had, and there were others in that pledge class that have been very, very successful and given back to Sigma Nu. So I just look for the quality of the human being and take it from there.
That's an excellent lesson for all the students here today. So thanks for sharing that. Focus on quality and ethics. Thank you for that. Brother Humphreys, you rose to the position of Chief Financial Officer at ExxonMobil, one of the world's most valuable and successful oil companies. What advice would you offer our brothers today for applying Sigma Nu's principles for a successful career and life?
So I like to kind of go back to the basics when you think about these kind of things. And one of the things that I did several years ago, preparing for the Maddox speech, was get my old pledge book out. And, you know, it's got 3 things in it that we all have focused on: love, truth, and honor. Carl mentioned them earlier. And I think with love, you know, everybody's going to have a family that they love, but you need to love your work, and you need to love your institution, and you need, through that love, you need to give back. And so for me, the love thing is really about giving back, and that's something that you all need to think about. With truth, you know, truth is, in my mind, is you really need to be expansive in your thinking. You need to think broadly. You need to be willing to step outside the box of your comfort zone so that you can see what truth is to other people, and it's critical. And honor, of course, and Carl mentioned this also, if you are with an organization that doesn't have appropriate business ethics or ethical standards, you really don't want to be part of it. It's just absolutely essential. The credibility, excuse me, of your self and your organization is all about your reputation and your ethics. And then, for me, there's one other principle, and it came through pledging, and our pledging was different than most of you have done. It was much more difficult, I think. And the thing that I learned there is you can never give up. And you have to have a sense of persistence. You just can't give up. And if you feel like you're going to give up, look around to your pledge brothers and basically suck it up and just keep going. And so, to me, it's kind of the 4th principle, which is persistence.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Humphreys. Now let's go to our newest Epsilon Epsilon brother to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Congratulations again, Brother Thoma. We're so proud of you and really pleased that you could be with us here today. Brother Thoma, as Robert mentioned, you're a household name in the financial world and on Wall Street. Can you give us an idea of how many companies over the years you may have bought and sold from a scale standpoint, and the importance of ethics and honorable leadership within the business world, and specifically maybe even within the companies that you evaluate?
Okay. Thank you. I probably don't keep up on the statistics like I should on the number of companies we've been involved with, but our PR department, if you go to our Thoma Bravo website, we seem to advertise it there every day as to how many companies we've bought or are in our portfolio. But at the moment, there's 70 companies in our portfolio, but I've worked with over 400 over my career. But I think following up on the comments that Burns has said and Don has said, you almost don't even want to talk about some of these things because it'll jinx you. But out of these 400 companies we've worked with, we've never encountered fraud. You know, we've just never had any ethical problems because, you know, my late original partner, Stan Golder, had such a philosophy that so relates to Sigma Nu, is that if you've ever got to even think about something, you know it's not to be done. Ethics are just they're just there. It just happens naturally. And so that is just, when we interview people to run our companies, it's all about commitment, doing what you say you're going to do, trusting people. You got to do it with everything Don said. And if you just back people like that, I mean, it's amazing how easy it is to make money. And I guess that's our secret sauce. And we got to remember, at the end of the day, we're all servants to somebody else. And our job as investors is to make the CEOs of these companies and their teams, you know, to feel proud and to accomplish things, because we want our companies growing. We don't want them to be destroyed by, you know. And so therefore, it's just, it just kind of, I'm repeating myself, but I think that's the main thing, is just focus on the right people. And just, as we always say, get the right people on the team.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Now we'll turn to Brother Eitel. Charlie, you've been primarily responsible for nominating this group of men here for consideration at the Hall of Fame. Would you share with us what motivated you to do so, and how do you view this group of fine brothers that are with us today?
Well, that's an easy question. You're looking at a lot of leaders up here and other leaders that just do the right thing. I'm all about ethics. I'm all about leadership, and that's what they're about. I'm just so glad we could put this together today. It's never been done, and I want to just say thank you to Carl and Burns and Don for being here. I also want to mention Dr. Tom Coburn, if I could. Tom was one of my pledge pops, as was Carl. Back then we had several. We moved around a lot. But Tom Coburn's from Muskogee, Oklahoma. He got married to Miss Oklahoma his junior year, Carolyn Coburn, amazing woman. He got cancer at a young age, around 40, decided to go to medical school, went to medical school, became an OBGYN, delivered over 3,000 babies over the course of his career as a doctor, served in the House of Representatives 2 terms, and served in the Senate. So he would deliver babies on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Monday, go to Washington Monday night, and then serve in the Senate or the House. I wanted to mention Tom specifically because he's not here, and probably one of the most amazing people I ever met in my life. So I wanted to answer the question around Tom because these guys are self-evident. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate that. I'd like to go back to Brother Humphreys with a practical question here. Evidently, I'm told that Charlie was sitting with you at an Oklahoma State football game a few years back, and he asked you how things were going at ExxonMobil as you were, again, CFO there, and maybe what your current challenges were at the time. And your response was, I'm trying to figure out what to do with $40 billion of cash at that time. Since then, I'm wondering, over that time period after that, how did you keep this money working for the company, and how did that make the company more successful?
Well, it was, really the answer was I'm trying to protect $40 billion because it happened right during the financial crisis in 2008. And we had several successful years and had accumulated really more cash than we needed to fund our capital campaign and our operations and buy shares back. But when the financial crisis hit, we had cash all around the world. It was scattered, you know, each affiliate had cash for various tax reasons, dividending, et cetera. And we had a system that was pretty good, but it relied on the rating agencies. And if you recall it, some of you guys won't recall it, the rating agencies were basically totally unreliable. You couldn't look at what they said something was worth and call AAA at all. And so we said, well, okay, we've got to find something else. So we centralized more of the decision-making process, and we moved, I don't want to get too technical here, we started looking at credit default swaps and the index around those because we found it much more reliable in terms of how to really rank and rate various securities. So we were able to do that. We kind of set up a war room. We stepped back from it. You know, you learn some things in college, some in your fraternity, some in ROTC, some in engineering, and one of them that I recall was just basic problem solving skill. So, you know, it's something as simple as identify the problem, come up with some potential solutions, pick the best one, execute it, and then recycle and go see if it worked. If it didn't, adjust and move forward. So that was a time when we were able to kind of step back and look at those basics and solve a problem. And even though we did have some money at Lehman Brothers at the time, we ended up getting all our money back. We didn't lose any money.
As a follow-up question to that, there's a leadership principle around maybe failing fast and being able to admit if things aren't working out. Did you apply that to that project in the sense that if something wasn't working, your team was able to readjust, if you would, quickly?
Yeah, we did. And it was learning quickly that the rating agencies were really horrible and recycling on that pretty soon because the general thinking at the time was, well, rating agencies are right. Well, rating agencies then were calling everything AAA. And so it took kind of a stepping outside the box and thinking about what other types of measures could you use. And we had to recycle on that 2 or 3 times.
That's great. That's a high-class problem, so appreciate you sharing that with us. Brother Hargis, for 13 years you had one of probably the hardest jobs in America, which is serving as a president of a major public university. Many of us here believe that you transformed Oklahoma State University into one of America's leading institutions, so congratulations for that. Walter James Sears, who wrote the Sigma Nu Creed, called colleges and universities the backbone of our republic. Do you believe this to be true today, and what should the role of college and fraternities be?
Well, I took over in that 2008. That's when I became president. Timing was impeccable. And I had a lot of help, and not the least which starts with Boone Pickens. And we're forever grateful for Boone's leadership. At the time, he was doing the Pickens plan, and he was running around the country. He always had an orange tie on and always was promoting Oklahoma State. But I think the important thing about college education is I mean, you learn a skill. You learn basics. I majored in accounting. I don't know if I think Don majored in engineering, but but you're really learning how to live a life. I mean, it's a time when you become an adult, and you become responsible, and those interactions, and that's what's so important about being active on campus and being active in your fraternity is that you really are learning everything that will make you successful going forward. I'll give you an example. I went to law school, and there was an effort to move our law school downtown. And I and several of my colleagues vehemently were opposed to that because it takes you out of the academic environment. And while we can learn how to, file a lawsuit or take a deposition or whatever you do, you're learning how to be a more well-developed person. And a college campus is it's just a petri dish for that kind of experience. And I really applaud all of you, albeit for being active and coming to Grand Chapter and being leaders on your campus, because it's going to follow you your entire career. It never leaves.
As a follow-up, you mentioned you had a legal background and maybe not necessarily at the PhD level. How did that enter into the formula when you were selected as president of Oklahoma State University?
Well, they tried to pass me off as a doctor. Actually, the degree you get now is a Juris Doctor, but PhDs think JD stands for Junior Doctor. So when I arrived at Oklahoma State, it wasn't, on a pillow with everybody throwing petals to me. In fact, a lot of people thought it was just nuts, and frankly, I kind of did too. I couldn't believe it was happening. I practiced law for 28 years, then I was in banking for 10 years, and then I took the job at Oklahoma State. And I started out thinking, I was able to convince myself that I'm really perfect for this job. And I've never lacked self-confidence. And I thought, basically, I'd spent my career trying to persuade people, raising money, being active in politics, suffering a failed governor's race, I might add. And from all of which I learned a lot. And today's universities are in so much financial pressure that you need a great provost to run the academic side of the house. But you need, in my opinion, a president, a leader that can interact with your alums and excite them about what you're trying to do. So basically, my attitude was, I'm going to run the business, and it is a pretty big business, and I'm going to raise money. And I'm going to leave the academics things to the academics. And that's the way I operated, and frankly, I think it was a good model.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And the Grand Chapter knows that I lean towards the finance end of things, and it's exciting to be on a stage with all of you with a finance background. But it takes all types of leaders to make everything operate. So appreciate you pointing that out. Brother Thoma, we mentioned earlier that you grew up in Boise City, Oklahoma, and however, you were accepted to attend several prestigious, well-known universities. Your choice was Oklahoma State. Were you also recruited by a number of top fraternities at OSU? Your choice was Sigma Nu. Can you tell us a little bit about your decision-making process to choose Oklahoma State and Sigma Nu?
Maybe the best answer to that question, I don't know whether I guess I chose them, but they actually chose me, so I'm eternally grateful for that. And actually, I probably always had a bias to going to Oklahoma State. When you grow up in a rural environment, you're involved in 4-H and FFA, and obviously that feeds into Oklahoma State as a land-grant college. And then I got a little small scholarship. And then also I'd been at Oklahoma State for a 6 weeks National Science Foundation summer program. So that wasn't too hard, but at the end of the day, what drove it was of going to Oklahoma State and becoming a Sigma Nu was, I guess as Burns alluded to, that he and Jeff Kolb drove all the way out there to meet me. But what stood out to me, and I think I fear it may have changed some, but at least when we were all in Oklahoma State, I'll tell you, the way the Rush program was run was a role model for today, and it's something we all need to practice. That when you interact with people, you need to focus on those people, not yourself. You want to ask them questions. You don't need to tell them about yourself. People love talking about themselves, so if you ask them a question, it gives them a chance to talk about themselves. And I'll tell you, the Sigma Nu's in that recruiting year under Burns was just amazing that somebody from the middle of nowhere, would have these bright kids out of Oklahoma City or brothers out of Tulsa that were schools of 2,000 in them. There was 33 in my class. You just kind of like people that seem to respect you, and I guess that's the reason we're all here today. That we just have a lot of mutual respect for each other, and we're all the brothers that we're in the house, everybody in this room, everybody's got a special place and contribution to making the world a better place. And I guess that's, it's pretty easy. It's just kind of there when you see it.
It's great advice, especially in in leadership and in the business world as far as asking questions of people and interacting with them. So that's excellent. Thank you. Brother Eitel, Charlie, you're a past regent, a member of the Hall of Fame, and a past director of Sigma Nu Educational Foundation. You and Oklahoma State brothers Neil Gilpin and brother Joe Francis led a fundraising initiative to build and help fundraise for the new Spears family Epsilon Epsilon Center for Excellence at our headquarters, which we dedicated in February. Can you tell us why you were so focused on this initiative several years ago?
I didn't get involved with the National Fraternity until 2009, which I'm really glad I did. But my first visit to Lexington, I saw where the staff was staying when they were in town, called the Carriage House. And I said, boy, this is really bad. And so I said, you know, Brad Beecham, we've got to build our brand. And if we want to build our brand, we need to get as many alumni as possible and students that are in school to come see this beautiful site in Lexington. And I said, where are they going to stay? Well, there's a Ramada Inn, there's whatever. I said, but if we really want to build our brand, we need a facility that will allow a chapter to bring their hopeful entire chapter to this beautiful site and see it and learn more about the National Fraternity. Because, you know, as a guy, you're going to have hopefully a son one day, and that son will go somewhere, and so you want the Sigma Nu chapter to be good where they go to school. And so I said, without Lexington, there is no Sigma Nu. Sigma Nu would survive a while without Lexington, but eventually it would go away because there's no way to connect all these dots unless you have a tight fraternity. And Brad Beecham is the most amazing executive director I have ever known in my life, not that I've known that many. And so we built this center. It sleeps 84 guys, and it's open and working. And Neil and Joe and many of us helped raise the money for it. And we still don't have it all. That's a separate discussion. But the centers, so what you could do now, any one of you chapters can bring your brothers, however you want to get there, and get initiated if you want in the Alpha Room, or at least to see the Alpha Room, and see the beautiful site. So to me, it was just a way to leverage Lexington and to be sure that we are building strong chapters and selling our brand and creating our brand throughout the United States and Canada.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. We're certainly appreciative of the Epsilon Epsilon chapter and are proud of the new building that we have there. So thank you for all your leadership to help to get that done. I'd now like to give each of you an opportunity to speak directly to the collegiate brothers here in the room today. The question is for each of you is, what advice would you give our collegiate brothers for how to stay true to Sigma Nu's principles, whatever path they may choose after college? Brother Hargis, I'll start with you.
Well, I think it starts with your pledge class. And I think you have to embrace that and be the way we operated, the pledge class really was autonomous and there was no personal servitude or any of that. But the members weren't very nice to us either. So we became kind of really bonded and with each other. And then as you move forward, you bond with the general membership more. And I've always said, meet everybody you can meet. I mean, you never know when it's going to come back for you. Just meet everybody you can meet, and it starts with your fraternity. And then it spreads to the Interfraternity Council, and it spreads then to the campus. And you, and I just think those are the principles that love, honor, ethics, all the things that we preach, we need to practice with every single person. Starting with the house, that pledge class, and taking it to the entire environment. So that would be my thought.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Brother Humphreys, we'll... Move to you next.
So I would say that the best advice I could give you young men today is when you're presented an opportunity, you know, for a decision about a job, about an experience, always take it. Always take the chance.
Right.
And step outside the box and always take your opportunity. Don't ever turn it down. Always take it.
That's great, thank you. Brother Eitel.
Wow. So I echo that comment. Cindy and I have owned so many homes I lost track of them. But it starts with a 3, and it's not 3, it's 30. And I'm that proud of that. But the point of it is, I was coming up through the ranks. To your point, Don, I stepped up. I mean, put me in. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And including going from a high-paid sales guy to a low-paid sales manager. So it's not about money, it's about taking the chance, playing to win versus playing not to lose, going as far as you can with all you have, and that really comes from connectivity. One of the main things that you're doing in college is you're building friends through a connection, and there's no better way to have a connection than a fraternity. My grandson Jackson will be a sophomore at Oklahoma State this fall, and we were talking about school, and I said, if you go to a school with 2,000 or 3,000 people, maybe a fraternity is not that important. But if you go to a school with 35,000 people, day one in Sigma Nu, you have 100 friends. Well, after you get initiated, you have 100 friends. But you have an immediate connectivity, and if you join the best fraternity on that campus, which in most cases is Sigma Nu, then your chances of success through those connections and role models is very important. One of my little quotes is, you are who you hang around. Who you hang around with is who you become. And if you hang around with the wrong crowd, if you let the wrong crowd get into your chapter or your university or your company, you're going to have problems. And I think you clearly architected that, Carl. To have that many companies and never have an ethical problem, I would say that's probably never happened before. That's probably the most rare thing I've ever heard. So congratulations to you. Knock on wood.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. And Brother Thoma.
I'm not sure I can add much to what's been said, but I guess one thought, and Don, I believe, touched on it, is that you really want to do what you're passionate about, and that's the reason I think our firm's successful. Is work is our hobby. It's what we love doing, so it's our passion, and so the lines blur, but that's great. If you want to be a teacher, do it with passion. If you want to be a doctor, the same way. And one thing that Oklahoma State's got what's called the McKnight Scholars, and one thing they've started doing to find a very effective improvement on outcomes is take advantage of some of these tests that you can take to learn what you're really good at, because sometimes it's a little bit like me. I went to college thinking I was going to be an engineer, and I'll have to sidetrack it. I'll call him Dr. Maddox, but Brother Maddox, I go to the first engineering class, and he says, look around, the person on each side of you will be gone in a couple of years. And sadly, I was one of those two that were gone. But then they stuck me with, I think, the wildest guy in the house, with Gary Winsett. So the next thing I know, I'm in agriculture. But who knows, then I got back into used ag and accounting. I guess here I am today, but I really do feel one just has to be honest with themselves about what do you enjoy doing, and do that. Don't do something your parents think you should do unless you want to do it, or because your buddy's doing it. I mean, I know friends now, when you get to be my age, they're really frustrated that they chose the path they went down and never lived as fulfilling a life as everybody on this stage has, and we all kind of deserve it, but you got to make some tough decisions early on, is to pursue the right things.
You know, something that Don said made me remember, I moved, I don't know how many times growing up, so I was never part of a community at all, and student council, nothing. I get to Oklahoma State, and I'm called up to the commander's office, and they said, Hargis, we've decided you're going to run for freshman class officer. And I said, oh, I don't do that. I mean, I've never done anything like that, but I'll help. I mean, I'll do everything like that. You're acting like you have a choice. And I said, well, don't I? Well, I guess you do. You can either do it or leave. And I said, well, I don't have anywhere to go. And they said, I guess you don't have a choice. So they pushed me out there, and I won. And that started my whole career in loving service and all of those kinds of activities. So I think getting challenged, and I tried not to take the opportunity, but I didn't have a choice.
I want to bridge off what Carl was saying is, you know, simple is great. And what I mean by that, I think in life you got to figure out what you're good at. You only have to pick one thing and then become great at it. I mean, you're a great example. He decided not to get too involved in the academic side, but yet raised $1 billion over 13 years, probably more than $1 billion, and created a world-class university that was already pretty good, but it's now great. So you figured out what you were good at, and you became great at it. And, you know, you can't be great at everything, and you can't be good at everything, but you got to be honorable and honest and figure out what you're good at and become great at it.
Excellent. Well, for 4 members of our Hall of Fame here, men, you could be anywhere in the world right now, probably doing anything that you wish. To travel all the way to Florida to be with us at our 70th Grand Chapter is really a testament to the power of our fraternity and the commitment of each of you. You all should be commended for that. And from what I've heard about our late brother, Coburn, I think he fits really well with the 4 of you and the conversation that we have today. So as we honor him today as well, thank you all for being with us today and taking times out of your busy schedules with your families to be with us here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.